The CFR's current roster of more than 2,600 members within the far larger international alliance includes key representatives of almost all of the major corporations, foundations, financial organizations, communication conglomerates, and think tanks in the United States. At any given time, approximately half of the CFR are serving or have served in the U.S. government. All three media-acknowledged candidates for the 1992 presidential race were linked to the CFR, while the major non-establishment candidate, Bo Greitz, may have tipped his hand to a journalist friend of mine when he slipped him a Freemasonic handshake at a survivalist convention. Strange that. Would it be that important for him to identify himself to his Masonic compadres so as to be willing to risk exposure? Mind Controls and UFOs, a Casebook on Alternative 3 by Jim Keith. Again, excellent book. Hello and welcome to another edition of The Stench of Truth. And, you know, we have the Fort Hood situation developing where the shooter is being charged with 13 murders. Certainly, if he is the sole person behind this, he should be punished to the fullest extent of the law, including being executed if that is in fact the verdict. But seeing as how there is a discrepancy in the official story between what was reported in local news coverage and what is being told to us today, perhaps we should wait before we rush to judgment, because even the heroic supposed efforts of the policewoman who brought this guy down are not, in fact, a true representation of what happened, according to some other sources. So, you know, was it a heroic policewoman or was it a policeman? Were there just the one shooter, or were there three, as was originally reported? And what about somebody else who supposedly was taken into custody for having amounts of explosives? So this story is just incredible, and it's going to continue to unfold. So I encourage everybody to stay on it and to do videos or whatever to show the discrepancies and to try to get some truth out of that entire fiasco. At the same time, we have President Obama, who is taking a stance on the war in Afghanistan, supposedly. Taking a stance of the learned thinker, the thinking leader who is carefully weighing all of his options in order to make the right decision on what the United States strategy should be for the future. When in fact, what he is doing is nothing but a fucking show. And this is the same kind of thing that we've seen time and time again in this country. But right now, what we have in Afghanistan is so closely paralleled with what happened in Vietnam and with the so-called peace movement in this country. Co-opted at that time in the 60s by COINTELPRO and by the FBI and other Secret Service agencies in this fucking country, totally demoralized, totally destabilized, and totally destroyed the peace movement. And Vietnam, as you know, went on to become a great fucking mess that killed tens of thousands of American soldiers, not to mention how many Vietnamese. And it was a total failure. And that is exactly what we have going on in Afghanistan. I found this, this was a thing that was given to President Johnson, or at least tried to give to President Johnson, a message. And this was a protest that was done during the time Johnson was making his momentous decisions as far as what the United States was going to do with Vietnam. And he certainly had three options at that time, which is exactly what Obama is facing. And those three options were: 1. Cut our losses and get the fuck out. 2. Maintain the amount of troops that you have there and face a long, dragged-out, slow defeat. 3. Increase your commitment. And it's increasingly looking like Obama is going to choose the third option, which is exactly what Johnson did, and we all know what happened as a result of that. So let me read this to you because it is eerie how much this relates to us today. End your silence. We, the undersigned, painters, writers, sculptors, musicians, and theater artists of the United States, believe it is time to protest the power being exercised in our names and those of all the American people. We can no longer remain silent about a foreign policy grown more nakedly inhuman with each passing day. A decade ago, when the people of Vietnam were fighting French colonialism, the artists and intellectuals of France, from Sartre to Mauriac, from Picasso to Camus, called on the French people's conscience to protest their leaders' policy as immoral and to demand an end to that dirty war. Cette sale guerre. Today, we in our own country can do no less. Our president must be made aware that his words of peace will not be heard above the din of the bombs falling on Vietnam, that his concern for freedom in South Vietnam is mocked by 11 years maintenance there of brutal police regimes assisted by American money, American guns, and finally, American blood. Our president must be told that our actions in the Dominican Republic are nothing less than armed intervention in a civil war of another nation. Our leaders must be reminded that in Vietnam and the Dominican Republic they are violating international law, the Charter of the UN, and indeed the spirit of our own Constitution. They must learn that their plans for a United States hegemony, for a Pax Americana, must lead not to peace but to death and destruction. They must accept the fact that they have no more right in Vietnam than did the French colonialists before them. Further, that their intrusion in Central and South America is justifiably interpreted both abroad and here at home as aggression. American artists wish once more to have faith in the United States of America. We will not remain silent in the face of our country's shame. We call on all citizens of our nation to join with us. End your silence. And then after that came the signatures of a bunch of people that were involved in that. But can you see the parallels between Iraq and Afghanistan and Vietnam and the Dominican Republic, even South America now with Hugo Chavez and other things going on in South America? My God, can you not see the incredible parallels? And this is what Obama is trying to do. He's trying to put himself in the position of Lyndon Baines Johnson on the escalation in Vietnam. And there is only one option of those three that has any benefit to anybody, and that is option number 1. Get the fuck out. And while Obama posturizes, and while he takes a position that is putting him in the light of being the enlightened leader, looking at all of his options, wanting to come to a grandiose, masterful fucking decision, we all know where it's going to go in the end. It's not going to be get the fuck out, which is what it should be. It's going to be either option 2 or 3, and probably option 3. And then we'll be dragged into another nightmare of failure, like Vietnam. Death and destruction. They wanted to pass out democracy then, too. Is that our wish today? Democracy, whether you like it or not. Democracy, or we kill you. Your country run the way we want, or we blow it up. Thank you.